Hello? Can you guys hear me? Yes, awesome. Awesome. Okay, audio issues, none. That's what we like to hear. All right, so we're I decided to hold a poll, and the winning topic was probably the most important topic right now at the time, which is the BioDigital convergence. I believe everybody wants to know about it, myself included. I think it's important for people to know what it is, be aware of it, be aware of what's happening, so you can try to take steps to mitigate, prevent, resist, avoid, boycott, whatever that looks like. But ultimately resist this. I'm ready to be let back in to Synergy Telegram. What? Anyway, sorry. I had some stuff that was passed along to me a couple streams ago, um, by Sal and Ryan, who I interviewed, and they kind of talked to me about some of this stuff and tried to help me understand a lot of it. I think what would be important is to kind of narrow our focus a little bit. I deleted old account and made a new one. Ah, I see. But I thought it would be important to like kind of narrow our focus, and instead of trying to come at you like super rapid fire with like all of these like white papers and things like that, what I would love to do is kind of go through like the entire story of how everything came to be through the technology itself. And I know that one of the biggest contributors to this is definitely DARPA. There's also the IEEE. There's in cubed and other things that also contribute. But I thought that as a way to kind of keep things on the rails a little bit, so that we can basically get it a full telling, instead of like, you know, let's talk about this nanotech and then crypto and then do all of that, because I want to kind of approach it a little differently, and try to get through at least DARPA and the Department of Defense's role in all of this. And so I've been kind of going back through the roots of Silicon Valley and even before then. And what I've been doing is trying to understand like the venture capital model and how that came to be. Turns out that is literally just basically a bunch of guys from MIT and the military and DARPA. They were like Manhattan Project guys. They were NASA guys. They were, and yeah, it wasn't good. But I have a couple of graphics here that give me a little bit of reference as to like the different technologies that we're gonna kind of be looking at as well. Where was this poll held? The poll for the live stream topic, it was on Twitter. I did it a few hours ago. Yeah, there was a couple of people that commented about the perestroika conspiracy, and I mean, I pretty much already agree. The entire point of the perestroika thing is that the Soviet Union like faked its downfall so that it could basically renationalize itself. And to a degree, I agree. I do think that, you know, they did kind of get hit pretty hard for a few years when the Soviet Union fell. But ultimately, I do think that, you know, the communism model that they had in the late Soviet Union era is exactly the model that they want us to have, where the government owns everything, everybody's got UBI, and you can't tell the difference between corporations and government. And that's where we're heading, and that's where Russia's heading. A lot of people don't think so, but that is the case. That's where China is, basically. But I thought that, at least for now, that we could stick specifically to like nanotechnologies. This circle right here, I think is good, especially like talking about cybernetics, genetic engineering, synthetic biology, and stuff like that. So I'm almost wondering though if it would be more conducive to start from the outside and work our way in. But I'm not entirely sure, because I'm still trying to learn as I go as well. And also, So this is gonna be like a little bit of a series, and that's why I went ahead and preemptively named it Part One. So right now I have academia, and that's like all the proponents, like all the people that have research centers that are looking into these things, the people that post studies and end up like developing the technology and stuff like that through like the scientific communities. I have the private sector as well. Obviously for things like Palantir, Oracle, Microsoft, and what have you. And then down here, I have the public sector. And I went ahead and put the Department of Defense and DARPA because that's where we're going to kind of be focusing on today. But I do want to clarify that this doesn't like start or stop with the United States exclusively. This is like a worldwide agenda that is going on, and it has been going on for a long, long time. The one thing that I have come to understand is that DARPA tends to be a recurring character in this, and with my understanding of the way that the Silicon Valley stuff worked, is like DARPA is a huge player, and they don't get talked about enough. And I think there's a reason for that. But I also believe that much like with the WEF, who usually like puts out their agendas and plans, 10, 20 years in advance, DARPA, any technology that we have now, DARPA had 10, 20 years ago. And they openly talk about the stuff, and they release the stuff, and there are papers on it. You go to like the DARPA mill, and there's so much information that they're just willing to share. They have investors, they have market shares for these technologies and partnerships with companies and shit like that. And so I think it would be important to start with DARPA. And when I was looking through things, I noticed that I don't exactly know when the nanotechnology biodigital convergence first started in the conversation. What I do know is that they were talking about what are they called? It's oh man, now I can't think of it. It's some acronym. Some nano acronym, but I can't remember what it was called. The DIRDS. I was just looking at this, and now I can't remember what it's called. It was like the precursor to like nanotechnology. It was BCNTs, maybe. Uh, INOBNT. No, it was something else. It's like NCBT. No, man, I can't remember what it's called now. You mean like sentient world simulation? No, this was like it was like the earliest precursor to nanotechnology. There was a name for it before it was officially like considered nanotech. I can't remember what it was. And I was just looking at it a minute ago. Let me see if I can pull it back up. Give me 1 second. NBIC. That was it. So, and obviously this was like you know, the idea and the concept of nanotechnology was around, and there was nanotechnology prior. This is kind of like an early, like 2004 was them talking about designing the future in NBIC technologies and human performance enhancement. And so this talks about literally transforming the human race. And I don't know, there's something insane about it, because they're discussing it like it's to enhance human performance on the scale that we will face in the near future, the convergence of nanotechnology, biotechnology, information technology, and cognitive science. So it wasn't really a precursor to nanotech. It was more so the precursor to the biodigital convergence itself, I guess is the correct way to frame that. But is creating a set of powerful tools that have the potential to significantly enhance human performance, as well as transform society, science, economics, and human evolution. So if I go NBIC, they have like the BTO N3 QBI. They won't be transforming me. Right, and so it's hard to say when the like actual push for all of these technologies kind of began. And that's what I'm trying to kind of figure out, is when exactly was the what was it called again? The NBCT? NBIC? When was that originated? Because I think that's important. DARPA's formal embrace of bioscience began in earnest in 2001. Is that true? I have to look for myself. "50 years ago, such as the internet, GPS, and for the past 3 years, DARPA has been busy working on other types of projects that could have major repercussions beyond the battlefield. In 2014, established the BTO. So I think that's important to put on here, is the BTO. Because they're, as much as I've seen stuff from DARPA, half of it has come directly from the BTO. Didn't Sabrina do a show with Seven, or am I hallucinating the nature of her tweet? We haven't yet. I've had a couple people on the schedule for a while, and I had to move some of them because I've had like a couple different things happen. and I'm just now starting to like make headway through that. But Policy Horizons Canada is what we got going on up here. Yeah, yeah. I just had another guest on, and he is from Canada, and he talked to me a lot about the Policy Horizons stuff that was happening. And so it's looking like with the establishment of the BTO, it was April 2014. And then you can kind of like go look through their programs, because they just have like all kinds of stuff that they just openly talk about. Like, what is Hermes? Goal of DARPA's new Hermes program is to overcome the challenges associated with broad intracellular delivery of biologics to diverse cell and tissue types by developing new delivery modalities that provide systemic distribution with limited negative side effects. That just sounds like the BioDigital Convergence. What is Refence? Program to develop self-healing hybrid biological engineered reef mimicking structures to mitigate the coastal flooding, erosion, and storm damage that increasingly threaten civilian and DoD infrastructure and personnel. And these are just the ones that they kind of have going on right now. There's so many more. There's so many that they've done in the past. There's partnerships that they have, and so on and so forth. And like, you know, half the people that are on this list right here, they weren't even around when the BTO was established. And I think that is important to keep in context. So who was the first director of the BTO? Jeffrey Ling. Okay. All right. And so what was his deal? Served as founding director of the BTO. He was a medical doctor, and he was a U.S. colonel and CEO of On Demand Pharmaceuticals. And then he was U.S. Army as a colonel. And it looks like HARPA, Health Advanced Research Projects Agency, was publicly proposed by Bob Wright and Jeff Ling. In April 2020, Ling co-wrote with Michael Stebbins the proposal for the creation of this new agency modeled on DARPA but focused on health. That proposal was adopted by then former Vice President Biden's presidential campaign and published online as part of a day one project. It became the model used to establish the Advanced Research Project Agency for Health, or ARPA-H. So him and Michael Stebbins were the two that inspired ARPA-H, which is essentially just DARPA but health. And Susan Menarez, who is in charge of the CDC, is actually from ARPA-H. And she talks about how much she loves AI and everything like that. So that's going to go well. I see that going well. And so Ling was part of establishing that, along with this Michael Stebbins guy. Now, was Michael part of DARPA? Probably. Geneticist and former vice president of science and technology at the Laura and John Arnold Foundation. Previously served as assistant director for biotechnology at the White House Office of Science and Public Technology Policy. All right. So we're going to take the White House piece because I think that's important. We're going to put that here, and I'm going to take the White House, put it here. We'll do that, and then we'll also link it to the DoD. Former National Academies of Science Board on Research Data and Information. He serves on the board of directors for the Value and Cancer Care Consortium that aims to improve access, affordability, and value of cancer therapies, and chairs the board for Vivli, whose mission is to promote, coordinate, and facilitate clinical research data sharing through the creation and implementation of a sustainable global data sharing enterprise. For BioDigital Convergence, you have to go back to the Flexner report. Abraham Flexner, Simone Flexner, and Bernard Flexner, when they took over the health schools. Let's take a look. The Carnegie Foundation, hey? That doesn't surprise me. Not only described the state of medical education in North America, but he also gave detailed description of the medical schools that were operating at the time. He provided both criticisms and recommendations for improvements for medical education in the U.S. And so, from my understanding, it was essentially the Rockefellers with the help of the Carnegies. Foundation bullet number 4 called on American medical schools to enact higher admission and graduation standards and to adhere strictly to the protocols of mainstream science principles in their teaching and research. Homeopathy, traditional osteopathy, eclectic machine medicine, and physiomedicalism. Botanical therapies that have not been tested scientifically were derided. Chapter 11 stressed the success of medical education reform, and the professionalization of medicine relied heavily on the effective legal and ethical functioning of state medical boards. And see, I've got a lot of like the medical industry takeover stuff sort of mapped out. They had a lot of help from Mary Lasker as well. In propping up like the National Institutes of Health to create like this fake authority organization that kind of set the standards. So it was essentially the government setting the standards for science, and the government was basically being run by Rockefeller, Rothschild, and shit. Yeah, see, to help with the transition and change of minds, other doctors and scientists, John D. Rockefeller gave many millions to colleges, hospitals, and founded a philanthropic group called the General Education Board. Flexner carefully examined the situation, using Johns Hopkins as the ideal medical school. He issued the following recommendations. So essentially, it was all to co-opt to the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, is what this seems like. Increase prerequisites, train physicians to practice in a scientific manner and engage in medical faculty and research, give medical schools control of clinical instruction in hospitals, hire trained full-time staff for medical education, grant medical schools increased funding, strengthen state regulation of medical licensure. And that essentially brought the government into the health industry to regulate everything and criminalize anybody that wasn't following protocol. That was, again, created by, like, the oil barons and the government. The state boards offer scathing critique. Worst Chicago schools with no entrance requirement, no laboratory teaching, no hospital connections made before state boards. The best record attained by any Chicago school in that year. This school, essentially the same now as then, has only recently been declared not in good standing with the State Board of Illinois. Everywhere in Canada and the U.S., wretched institutions refute criticism by pointing to their successful state board records. And so, do we start with the establishment of DARPA? Like, it's so hard to determine where the starting point is necessarily, because we already had, like, like military technology in the way of, like, the private sector back when World War I happened. Robert Hughes. Subverting America. Surprise, surprise. Catch on replay. Have to go. Have a great night, everyone. Hey, thank you for stopping by. Because it, like, essentially I want to stick to DARPA as much as I can. And so if I can sort of, like, map out, in fact, I'm almost wondering if I should take all of this and rearrange it to be down here, because I'm wanting the technologies and stuff to kind of overlap in the middle, where DARPA has, like, facilitated studies or contracted private companies to be involved as well. And so I think I'm gonna rearrange this just a tad. All right. All right. Petrochemicals. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't trust any fucking doctor. They're like, I have a degree, and I'm like, that's awesome that they gave you a piece of paper for, basically absorbing all of their propaganda. Way to go. So do we just start with DARPA then? I'm just gonna go look at the founder. I'm gonna put Eisenhower on here. Thanks a lot, Eisenhower. And it all came out of the space race. DARPA agency shaped the world. The COVID vaccine, weather satellites, GPS drones, stealth technology, voice interfaces, the personal computer, and the internet. which all of those, I would argue, factor into the biodigital convergence. Isn't that funny? And so I do think it's important to put those technologies on here as well. Um, the story behind ARPANET, a lot of people don't know that like Stanford and Berkeley were involved in that, like MIT was involved, and that all of these colleges work like directly with the government. I know most of you guys are aware, but most people, like when I bring up, oh, this guy went to MIT, that's shady, they're like, why? It's a school. DARPA created 1958 as ARPA, early nano 1959, Feynman talk 1974, Taniguchi coins nanotechnology. What the fuck are Taniguchi coins? I don't think I've ever heard of that. Yeah, Lincoln Lab. You've got the Los Alamos. And I know this web looks kind of like small right now, but as we go, I'm going to sort of expand everything and go from there. So we have GPS. We have satellites. Right, what was it? Weather satellites. There's going to be a lot of that later. COVID vaccines. Personal computer. And these are like the basic ones, right? These aren't like, you know, this is shit that everyone knows about. But I do think that it is interesting, you know, that all of these things do fall in line. Like they've just been releasing the pieces year over year and telling people, you know, look what the private sector did. ARPA 1958, ARPANET 1962, IMP 1965, NSFNet 1983, Creating the Web 1993, WWW 1995, Rainbow Dome Finish 2017. Shit. And I need a color for these. I'm thinking probably purple. Because then you had like from the private sector comes Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, all the vaccine companies. Academia, you have like the National Institute of Health. Well, the National Institute of Health, I guess, would technically fall under government, but you have, you know, the schools and the various research facilities and stuff that are funded by both public and the private sector, and how those technologies will kind of interlay with each other. And in the middle will just be biodigital convergence. And hopefully I'll be able to keep this all together and kind of understand it well enough and keep track of everything in a way that kind of makes sense. So when we're talking about, because I saw someone mention early nano was the 1959 Feynman talk. What year was it that DARPA attached that diode to that moth? That like diode tube. There is no public sector. I mean, that's true. That's true. But just for the sake of organization, you know, I feel like I have to label things as government and have to label corporations. Should I rename it government sector? The better? All right, so you said 1958, 1959. Richard Feynman. Transcript that Richard Feynman gave December 29th, 1959 at the annual meeting of the American Physical Society at Caltech, and was first published in the February 1960 issue of Caltech's Engineering and Science. The Willy Wonka sector. Name it pseudo-private sector or pseudo-government private sector. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think we all know that the private sector and the public sector are they're like the Democrat Republican of the world. Imagine experimental physicists must look at envy at men like Kamerling Onus, who discovered a field like low temperature, which seems to be bottomless, and in which one can go down and down. Such a man is then a leader and has some temporary monopoly in a scientific adventure. Percy Bridgman, in designing a way to obtain higher pressures, opened up another new field and was able to move into it and lead us all along. The development of ever higher vacuum was a continuing development of the same kind. I would like to describe a field in which little has been done, but in which an enormous amount can be done in principle. This field is not quite the same as the others, and that it will not tell us much of fundamental physics, in the sense of what are the strange particles, but it is more like solid state physics in the sense that it might tell us much of great interest about the strange phenomena that occur in complex situations. Furthermore, a point that is most important is that it would have an enormous number of technical applications. What I want to talk about is the problem of manipulating and controlling things on a small scale. Ooh. Ooh. As soon as I mention this, people tell me about miniaturization and how far it has progressed today. They tell me about electric motors that are the size of the nail on your small finger. There's a device on the market, they tell me, by which you can write the Lord's Prayer on the head of a pin, but that's nothing. That's the most primitive, halting step in the direction I intend to discuss. It is a staggeringly small world that is below. In the year 2000, when they look back at this age, they will wonder why it was not until the year 1960 that anybody began seriously to move in this direction. Why cannot we write the entire 24 volumes of the Encyclopedia Britannica on the head of a pin? Let's see if that would be... Let's see what would be involved. The head of a pin is a 16th of an inch across. If you magnify it by 25,000 diameters, the area of the head of the pin is then equal to the area of all the pages of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Therefore, it is all it is necessary to do is to reduce the size of all the writing in the Britannica Encyclopedia by 25,000 times. Is that possible? The resolving power of the eye is 1/120th of an inch. That is roughly the diameter of one of the little dots on the fine halftone reproductions of the encyclopedia. This, when you demagnify it by 25,000 times, is still 80 angstroms in diameter, 32 atoms across, and an ordinary metal. In other words, one of those dots still would contain in its area 1,000 atoms, so each dot can easily be adjusted in size as required by the photo engraving, and there is no question that there is enough room on the head of a pen to put all of Encyclopedia Britannica. Okay, so he's just going on a simpler way. We take light and through an optical microscope backwards, we focus it into a very small photoelectric screen. The light which we get from a page is concentrated onto a very small area, so it is very intense. The few electrons which come from the photoelectric screen are demagnified down to a very tiny area so that, again, they are very intense. I don't know why this hasn't been done yet. Light, photonics, optogenetics. What is this paper? I must know. This is called... there's plenty of room at the bottom. $24 million volumes. Okay. Information on a small scale. Suppose that instead of trying to reproduce the pictures and all of the information directly in its present form, we write only the information content in a code of dots and dashes or something like that to represent the various letters. Each letter represents 6 or 7 bits of information. That is, you only need about 6 or 7 dots or dashes for each letter. Now, instead of writing everything as I did before on the surface of the head of a pin, I'm going to use the interior of the material as well. Okay. So there's plenty of room at the bottom. Don't tell me about microfilm. Better electron microscopes. If I have written in a code with 5 times 5 times 5 atoms to a bit, the question is, how could I read it today? The electron microscope is not quite good enough. With the greatest care and effort, it can only resolve about 10 angstroms. I would like to try and impress upon you, while I am talking about all of these things on a small scale, the importance of improving the electron microscope by 100 times. It is not impossible. It is not against the law of diffraction of the electron. The wavelength of the electron in such a microscope is only 1/20th of an angstrom, so it should be possible to see the individual atoms. What good would it be to see individual atoms distinctly? Trump described it. Once all the information they can fit in the tip of a pin. That he probably picked that up from someone mentioning this to him when he was explaining that they were doing the BioDigital convergence and they were going to do it through him. So what you should do in order for us to make more rapid progress is to make the electron microscope 100 times better. What are the most central and fundamental problems of biology today? They are questions like, what is the sequence of bases in the DNA? What happens when you have a mutation? How is the base order in the DNA connected to the order of amino acids in the protein? What is the structure of the RNA? Is it a single chain or double chain? And how is it related to the order of bases to the DNA? What is the organization of the microsomes? Or how are the proteins synthesized? Where does the RNA go? How does it sit? Where do the proteins sit? Where do the amino acids go? What is the system of the conversion of light into chemical energy? You just look at the thing, you will see order of bases in the chain, you'll see the structure of the microsome. Unfortunately, the present microscope sees at a scale which is just a bit too crude. Make the microscope 100 times more powerful, and many problems of biology would be made very much easier. I exaggerate, of course, but the biologists would surely be very thankful to you, and they would prefer that to the criticism that they should use more mathematics. And he goes into the lens, the marvelous biological system. Biology is not simply writing information, it is doing something about it. A biological system can be exceedingly small. Many of the cells are very tiny, but they are very active. They manufacture various substances. They walk around, they wiggle, they do all kinds of marvelous things on a very small scale. Also, they store information. Consider the possibility that we too can make a thing very small which does what we want, that we can manufacture an object that maneuvers at that level. Okay. I see where he's going with this. I've shared a lot on Twitter. I'm the fringe over there. Oh, what's going on? What's going on? I like your work. They may even be an economic point to the to this business of making things very small, let me remind you that some of the problems of computing machines and computers, we have to store an enormous amount of information. Miniaturizing the computer. This is literally like them talking about nanotech. For instance, the wires should be 10 or 100 atoms in diameter, and the circuit should be a few thousand angstroms across. Everybody who has analyzed the logical theory of computers has come to the conclusion that the possibilities of computers are very interesting if they could be made to be more complicated by several orders of magnitude, which has already been done. If they had millions of times as many elements, they can make judgments. They would have time to calculate what is the best way to make the calculation that they are about to make. They could select the method of analysis, which from their experience is better than the one we would give to them, and in many other ways, they would have new qualitative features. So that's talking about AI. He's explaining the BioDigital convergence. It's a huge market currently with data center. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you go to, you can go to datacentermap.com. These are just the ones that we know about in the private sector, because you can search like Google and it'll show you all their data centers and where they're located, or at least the ones that they have on public record. You can even click on it and see all of their data centers in operation and where they are, right? So Google has a shit ton. They have over 100. But if you try to type in Palantir, nothing comes up. So I think that's interesting. If we wanted to make a computer that had all of these marvelous extra qualitative abilities... Oh, okay, I missed a... If I look at your face, I immediately recognize that I've seen it before. Yet there is no machine which, with that speed, can take a picture of a face and say even that it is a man, and much less that it is the same man that you showed it before, unless it is exactly the same picture. If the face is changed, if I'm closer to the face... See, we're past all that. The numbers of elements in this bone box of mine are enormously greater than the number of elements in our wonderful computers, but our mechanical computers are too big. The elements in this box are microscopic. I want to make some that are submicroscopic. If we wanted to make a computer that had all of these marvelous extra qualitative abilities, we would have to make it perhaps the size of the Pentagon. This has several disadvantages. First, it requires too much material. There may not be enough germanium in all of the world for all the transistors that would have to be put into this enormous thing. There's also the problem of heat generation and power consumption, which is why they're doing all the nuclear plants. Since 1958, DARPA has been an engine of innovation serving national defense and the U.S. warfighter. Molecular equals submicroscopic, yeah. They still need data centers and AI and the machines with it. It is supposed... There will be direct attacks on data centers by humans already happening in Texas. Yeah, and so the problem is that they've kind of created like this decentralized centralization where they have data centers in every country, right? But they all connect to the same cloud. So if one data center goes down, then they just overhaul everything over to the other ones. And they even have like space clouds now where they are like storing data between satellites. And that shit's fucking insane. America alone has, yeah, almost 4,000 mesh. Yeah. It's all interoperable. Decentralized centralization. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. 1 trillion sensors network. Yep. TVA would be needed to run the computer, But an even more practical difficulty is that the computer would be limited to a certain speed because of its large size. There's a finite time required to get the information from one place to the other. The information can't go any faster than the speed of light. So ultimately, when our computers get faster and faster and more elaborate, we will have to make them smaller and smaller. But there's plenty of room to make them smaller. There's nothing that I can see in the physical laws that says the computer elements cannot be made enormously smaller than they are right now. In fact, there may be certain advantages. Miniaturization by evaporation. And here we are, optogenetics, yeah. How can we make such a device? What kind of manufacturing processes would we use? One possibility we might consider, since we've talked about writing by putting atoms down in a certain arrangement, would be to evaporate the material, then evaporate the insulator next to it, then for the next layer, evaporate another position of a wire, another insulator, and so on. So you simply evaporate until you have a block of stuff which has the elements, coils and condensers, transistors, and so on of exceedingly fine dimensions. What do they mean by evaporate? When they're talking about evaporating it, are they're just they mean shrink? I don't can see this when they do dry drop slides and how the nanotech is still active, especially after rehydrating. Drying. Well, so how? So is he saying that like so he's mentioning evaporating the position of a wire. How can I invest in the patent for cryptocurrency earning? Don't do it. National Nanotechnology Initiative. Yep. The position? Yeah. That's what doesn't make sense to me. It says they would evaporate the material, then evaporate the insulator next to it, then for the next layer, evaporate another position of a wire. Deposition. Evaporation is a common method of thin film deposition. The source material is evaporated in a vacuum. It's vaporized. They vaporize it. They could have just said that. Yeah, so they basically turn it into like a microscopic dust. They take the material for the wire and they basically destroy it or like particularize it. 7, you know they like to sound fancy. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, so they're vapor. Anytime he says evaporate, he's talking about like vaporizing the material to like a nanoscale measure. So you simply evaporate until you have a block of stuff which has the elements. But I would like to discuss, just for our amusement, that there are other possibilities. Why can't we manufacture these small computers somewhat like we manufacture the big ones? Why can't we drill holes, cut things, solder things, stamp things out, mold different shapes, all at an infinitesimal level? What are the limitations as to how small a thing has to be before you can no longer mold it? How many times when you are working on something frustratingly tiny like your wife's wristwatch have you said to yourself, if only I could train an ant to do this? What I would like to suggest is the possibility of training an ant to train a mite to do this. What are the possibilities of small but movable machines? They may or may not be useful, but they surely would be fun to make. Consider any machine, for example, an automobile, and ask about the problems of making an infinitesimal machine like it. Suppose in the particular design of the automobile, we need a certain precision of the parts. We need an accuracy, let's suppose, of 4/10,000ths of an inch. If things are more inaccurate than that in the shape of the cylinder and so on, it isn't going to work very well. If I make the things too small, I have to worry about the size of the atoms. I can't make a circle of balls, so to speak, if the circle is too small. So if I make the error corresponding 4/10,000ths of an inch correspond to an error of 10 atoms, it turns out that I can reduce the dimensions of an automobile 4,000 times approximately so that it is 1 micrometer across. Obviously, if you redesign the car so that it would work with a much larger tolerance, which is not at all possible, then you can make a much smaller device. Parts stressed, problems associated with the electrical parts of the system, with the copper wires and magnetic parts, problems with lubrication, rapid heat loss, prevent gasoline from exploding, relatively small machines. He says that although it is a very wild idea, it would be interesting in surgery if you could swallow the surgeon. You put the mechanical surgeon inside the blood vessel and it goes into the heart and looks around. Of course, the information has to be fed out. It finds out which valve is the faulty one and takes a little knife and slices it out. Other small machines might be permanently incorporated in the body to assist some inadequately functioning organ. Now, I want to build much the same device, a master-slave system, which operates electrically. You don't say. Pantograph, each stage, 100 tiny hands, rearranging the atoms. Atoms in a small world. Dude, how fucking long? I do not expect that such prizes will have to wait very long for claimants. He wanted to offer a prize. First guy makes an operating electric motor, a rotating electric motor, which can be controlled from the outside, and not counting the lead-in wires is only 1/64 inch cubed. So, yeah, this Feynman guy, Richard Feynman, he seems like a pretty prominent person with the nanotech. And I don't know much about him. I'm gonna look at him real quick. Nanotech, purple. I think I misspelled his name. I did. American theoretical physicist. Subatomic particles, which later became known as Feynman diagrams. He assisted in the development of the atomic bomb during World War II and became known to the wider public in the 1980s as a member of the Rogers Commission, the panel that investigated the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. Along with his work in theoretical physics, Feynman has been credited with having pioneered the field of quantum computing and introducing the concept of nanotechnology. California Institute of Technology is, isn't that where he gave that speech? Caltech? Or he submitted that. Palantir does not own and operate their own data centers. Ah, I see. It's an asshat that glorified gibberish to lead people from real science. That's what it seems like. Graphene, it's a metamaterial. Properties, when hit with infrared laser, it will spit out terahertz waves. What are 6G transmissions of data need to reach the necessary speeds? Plenty of room at the bottom. The Feynman lectures. Feynman's father was born into a Jewish family in Minsk, Russian Empire. Lucille's father had immigrated from Poland, and her mother also came from a family of Polish immigrants. She trained, influenced by his father. 5 Queens, Aurora Borealis. Feynman described himself as an avowed atheist. Later in life, during a visit to the Jewish theological seminary, Feynman encountered the Talmud for the first time. He saw it contain the original text in a little square on each page, and surrounding it were commentaries written over time by different people. In this way, the Talmud had evolved, and everything that was discussed was carefully recorded. Despite being impressed, Feynman was disappointed with the lack of interest in nature and the outside world expressed by the rabbis, who cared only about those questions which arise from the Talmud. So he was impressed by the Talmud. Taught himself trigonometry, advanced algebra, infinite series, analytic geometry, and both differential and integral calculus at 15. So he also went to MIT. Feynman applied to Columbia University but was not accepted because of its quota for the number of Jews admitted. That's kind of funny. He did go to MIT though. Or I guess we're doing yellow for academia. And I already have MIT up here. UNESCO and Radzawills Castle, also hotels. He joined the Phi Lambda Phi. Attendees at Feynman's first seminar, which was the classical version of the Wheeler-Feynman absorber theory, included Albert Einstein, Wolfgang Pauli, and John von Neumann. Pauli made the prescient comment that the theory would be extremely difficult to quantize, and Einstein said that one might try to apply this method to gravity and general relativity. He got a scholarship to Princeton. World War II. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, he was recruited by Robert R. Wilson, who was working on a means to produce enriched uranium for use in the atomic bomb as part of what would become the Manhattan Project. the time, Feynman had not earned a graduate degree. Wilson's team at Princeton was working on a device called an isotron intended to electromagnetically separate uranium-235 from uranium-238. This was done in quite different manner from that used by the calutron that was under development by a team under Wilson's former mentor, Ernest O. Lawrence, at the RAD Lab, the University of California. And so this guy has connections to the Manhattan Project. Love to see it. I have a whole web that I've been doing on the Manhattan Project as well. And I'll have to find a way to combine the two eventually. Manhattan Project. I guess it's fine to keep it the color it is. And so he was part of the Manhattan Project, which was being done by the Department of Defense. And that's where you start to get like Oppenheimer and all of them. Planck. So he was also so he wasn't at Rad Lab, but there was Robert R. Wilson, Wilson's mentor, Ernest O. Lawrence, at Rad Lab. Feynman was assigned to the Hans-Bethe Theoretical Division. Their T division. He was a T boy. He and Bethe developed the Bethe-Feynman formula for calculating the yield of a fission bomb, which built upon previous work by Robert Serber. As a junior physicist, he was not central to the project. He administered the computation group of human computers in the theoretical division. With Stanley Frankel and Nicholas Metropolis, he assisted in establishing a system for using IBM punched cards for computation. He invented a new method of computing logarithms that he later used on the connection machine. On completing this work, Feynman was sent to the Clinton Engineer Works in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, where the Manhattan Project had its uranium enrichment facilities. He aided the engineers there in devising safety procedures for material storage so that criticality accidents could be avoided, especially when enriched uranium came in contact with water, which acted as a neutron moderator. Okay. All right. So we have the IBM punch cards, which I think I'm getting a little too you know, off the thing there. Wow, I can read wiki too. All right. You're more than welcome to do that. It's not like it's our end-all be-all. I'm just kind of getting the quick and dirty on this guy. And so he was working with, because I've already looked into Nicholas Metropolis a little bit from the Manhattan Project. So he was also at Cornell. I'm impressed no one reads wiki. Well, it's like, that's a good place to go for like a starting point. And when it comes to like, this person was at this company, I'm like, okay, probably. And then you go vet and verify everything. with secondary sources, tertiary sources, and things like that. And it saves you a lot of time. Because it's like, all right, well, if I shouldn't use Wikipedia, can anybody point me to an aggregation of information on most people? Or do I have to then spend all of the time going through and aggregating all of this information myself to then go through and pick through what's important? Or what? Pretty fucked. This is the first connection brainstorming. Yeah, this is like we're laying down like the groundwork and just basically getting I'm trying to understand it myself. And that's the thing too, right? Is like this is a researching stream. Like that's the entire point of the show is to learn. And if I'm just like skipping around a bunch of shit, the web isn't going to make sense, and I need to be able to kind of understand it myself. And that's what this research is about. I mean, I would say that I urge you guys to find me another person who does all of their researching live in front of people. I I don't know everything, and it is really, really difficult to know everything all the time. So I don't see a problem with like coming here to reference things and then using those as like starting points for further research. Just my opinion. No longer working at Los Alamos. So with Los Alamos, that is technically like a government facility. Uh, Chinese cultural leader looks like Tom Hanks went to Cornell. Dude, fuck Tom Hanks. His work during this period, which used equations of rotation to express various spinning speeds, ultimately proved important to his Nobel Prize winning work, yet he felt burned out and had turned his attention to less immediately practical problems. He was surprised by the offers of professorships from various renowned universities, including the Institute for Advanced Study, UCal LA, and UCal Berkeley. Carefully worked through the problems again. Feynman presented his work to his peers at the Pocono Conference in 1948. It did not go well. The unfamiliar Feynman diagrams used for the first time puzzled the audience. Feynman failed to get his point across, and Paul Dirac, Edward Teller, and Niels Bohr all raised objections. Have you heard of the DARPA coins list, an award system for valuable operatives? I have not. Of course, it goes back further because how did they all know each other? How did they come up with this and when? That is kind of like the biggest question. My starting point to integrate was 1910 Flexner report. We'll see, because I would go back even further than that, because we had like inklings of like the technocratic movement happening before then, if I remember correctly. Let me check. Or no, I think Technocracy Inc. might have been post World War I. 1933. When was Thorstein Veblen? Because he was like a huge inspiration for Technocracy. And it looks like he studied philosophy at Johns Hopkins, which was where that report based off everything. ARPANET was the first iteration of the internet. DARPA coin list would have come from ARPANET, would be my guess. That makes sense. So Veblen studied economics and philosophy under the guidance of young John Bates Clark, who went on to become a leader in the new field of neoclassical economics. Clark influenced Veblen greatly, and as Clark initiated him into the formal study of economics, Veblen came to recognize the nature and limitations of hypothetical economics that would begin to shape his theories. Veblen later developed an interest in the social sciences, taking courses within the fields of philosophy, natural history, and so on and so forth. So it says that he graduated in 1880. He traveled to study at Johns Hopkins. He failed to obtain a scholarship there. He moved on to Yale, where he found economic support for his studies. His two wives later in life. And he was getting paid by the New School for Social Research. And so I'm almost wondering if John Dewey was involved. Professor Norio Taniguchi paper on the basic concept of nanotechnology to describe ion beam machining accurate to 1 nanometer, pushing ultra precision manufacturing beyond the then one, what is that? Microgram? Micrometer? Yeah, because see this, so in 1919, which was, well, like, basically a generation after that report had, or no, it was about 10 years after that report had come out. You had Veblen teaming up with Charles Beard, James Harvey Robinson, and John Dewey. John Dewey is largely considered like the father of education of the 20th century, because he influenced the way people were taught. So he kind of created like an entire new method of education, and basically revolutionized like academia in America. And he was working at this school, and this school was funded by the Rockefellers and Hiram Hale of Big Oil, and was the person that was in charge of it, Alvin Saunders Johnson, was from Rockefeller. And what they basically did was they took all the people that were facing like persecution and shit through like Hitler's Germany for the very fucked up things that they were doing over there. And they were brought over here under protection, like immigration programs, and then were placed in this new school for social research. You can even look it up, and it's called the University in Exile, because of all of the people that came from like Weimar Germany and shit. But it was, so the new school in 1919, it emerged from American modernism, progressivism, and democratic education movement. The group was open to students and aimed for an unbiased understanding of the existing order, its genesis, growth, and present working. From 1919 to 1926, Veblen continued to write and maintain a role in the new school's development. During this time, he wrote The Engineers and the Price System, And that's what sort of encouraged the technocratic movement. That's where you got like Howard Scott and M. King Hubbard. Yeah, exactly. Frankfurt School weaponized U.S. education against civilization. That pretty much sums up exactly what this was. Um, in it, Veblen proposed a Soviet of engineers, according to Ramstad. The view that engineers, not workers, would overthrow capitalism was a novel view. Veblen invited Guido Marx to the new school to help teach and organize the movement of engineers, with others such as Morris Cook, Henry Gantt, who died shortly before, and Howard Scott. Cook and Gantt were followers of Frederick Wilson Winslow Taylor's scientific management theory. Scott, who listed Veblen as being on the temporary organizing committee of the Technical Alliance, perhaps without consulting Veblen or other listed members, later helped found the Technocracy movement. And the Technocracy movement just came out of the efficiency movement, which Teddy Roosevelt was a part of. Anyway, sorry. So I think that the first mention of nanotech, like especially in the way that he kind of described it there, is especially interesting because that he was basically like they already had all the applications thought out, like gamed out. They were just waiting on the tech to catch up. Frankfurt introduced to American culture feminism, communism, atheism, mass migration, globalism, humanism, culturalism, nihilism, hedonism, environmentalism. Yeah, activism as like a appeal to like the public's emotions. That's where we got tons of our like liberalism. I'm enjoying it. You've pretty much begun a decent brain map so far to connect these things to the BDC so far right now. I don't do mine live. Bravo, sir. Thank you. I mean, it's like the most transparent way to show like what I'm doing and how I get there and everything like that, because I'm not like a professional researcher, perhaps even autism. Maybe. Allegations of sexism. Sexist theories about lady drivers and clueless women in his lectures. Who put all these girls in my classroom? Feynman recalled protesters entering a hall and picketing a lecture he was about to make in San Francisco, calling him a sexist pig. That's funny. I'm mostly joking on that last one. I mean, maybe. I saw Enrico Fermi and I was like, oh no. Fermi Labs is getting involved. That's not good. So Caltech, he gave so this is where he had given that speech. There's plenty of room at the bottom. And this was 1959. Nanoscale machines, swallowing the doctor. Yeah, we read that. Delivered an address to the National Science Teachers Association, in which he suggested how students could be made to think like scientists, be open-minded, curious, and especially to doubt. Case before the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. She was refused tenure in 1974. The Challenger disaster. Oh, yeah, I forgot he was part of the Rogers Commission. Won an Albert Einstein Award. He was elected foreign member of the Royal Society in 1965 and received the Oersted Medal in 1972. He was elected a member of the National Academy of Sciences, but ultimately resigned and is no longer listed by them. On January 2016, co-founder of Microsoft Bill Gates wrote an article describing Feynman's talents as a teacher, the best teacher I never had, which inspired Gates to create Project Tuva to place the videos of Feynman's messenger lectures, The Character of Physical Law, on a website for public viewing. In 2015, Gates made a video in response to Caltech's request for thoughts on Feynman for the 50th anniversary of Feynman's 1965 Nobel Prize on why he thought Feynman was special. H.G. Wells theorized nanotype concepts way before Feynman. So we're talking pre-1959. Psychology was not formed to help people, but to better understand ways to manipulate behavior. Yes, you're absolutely right. Hold on, I have to see something. Give me 1 second. I'm checking my website because I haven't been able to test a stream at it before, and it was live. I'm getting DDoS over there. No, we're good. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So we have Feynman that helped with the nanotechnology stuff. Now, what was the first official nanotech that existed? Is there like a way to find that at all? It's amazing what a pile of the shit the raw Wikidata dump is. I started building an indexer link builder to do this type of research, and it's just too disorganized. Yeah, it's tough. Rumble's still live and in color. I mean, do these guys not look like brothers? The Depop brothers, Gates and Fauci? Not really. Let me look at this. No. They look like they have common ancestors, but maybe like 5 things down the line or something. 1822. Really? Do you have a link to something that I can read to look into that? Because that seems absurd. And not that I'm calling it absurd. It's just 1822? What was the first confirmed instance of nanotechnology? See, this is also saying it's like the Feynman. You may be right. I've been told that I have the facial blindness. ETA Hoffman's 1822. Berlin and Bamberg. That's him in Berlin. Died of syphilis, 1822. I'm confused. Nanotechnology timeline. Nano.gov. 1857, Michael Faraday discovered colloidal ruby gold, demonstrating that nanostructured gold under certain lighting conditions produced different colored solutions. Invented the field emission microscope, allowing near atomic resolution images of materials. What's up, Seven? What's up, friends? What's up, Wheezy? We're looking at DARPA and the BioDigital Convergence, and we're looking at Nano.gov's timeline of discoveries and developments that helped enable nanotechnology. I got to take all this stuff with a grain of salt, too, because it is a .gov website. So not only do you vet things on Wikipedia, but you also vet things from official sources. But this could be a good outline for us. Let me see how many points are on here, because I may just end up like copying this entire thing as like a supplemental timeline. Holy shit. Okay. No one had laid out a recognizable nanotechnology program atom by atom or molecular scale machinery before Feynman's 1959 talk. A few 19th century authors floated microscopic engineering fantasy. That makes sense. Yeah, because it's even saying here, like, 4th century in Rome as an example of dichroic glass, colloidal silver and gold in the glass allow it to look opaque green when lit from the outside, but translucent red when the light shines through the inside. Glowing, glittering luster, ceramic glazes used in the Islamic world and later in Europe contain silver or copper or other metallic nanoparticles. And then this had nanoparticles of gold chloride and other metal oxides and chlorides. Gold nanoparticles also acted as a photocatalytic air purifier. What's going on? How much have I missed? About 2 of the 3 hours. Eventually, you may want to look into Buckminster Fuller's work on nano. What year was that? What year did he start that? All right, so I'm thinking that what I would love to do is have like a timeline for nano. So I may actually bring this down. Oh, well. and start like a timeline. Great podcast with Opperman last week, Wheezy. Let's go. Yowzers, the research goes deep today. Will there be any homework assignments for tonight? No. The 1960s. Okay. 1985. And I'm just going to put nanostructured gold under there. And then continue the timeline forward. So what I might do then is this, so that way we can just go back and forth. 1936 is the next one. And that's where we got the field emission microscope, allowing near atomic resolution of materials. And that's when they started to say, hey, we can take these atom-sized materials and make microscopic machines. Me and Seven will be slaying the gay away. Marcus Allen primed whoop-ass. Have the Apollo detectives on Saturday. Let's go. 1947, we get the invention of the semiconductor transistor, and that's where shit starts to go fucking insane. And that was at Bell Labs, which was basically DARPA. I think Bell Labs is important. I also think that William Shockley is important. Bell Labs is like a subsidiary of AT&T, so I'll just keep it green because it's a private thing. Bell Labs. Like so. And I think William Shockley is important. I mean, all of them are important, but William Shockley is the one I know by name. Fuck it, we'll put all three. Some other nano-related rabbit holes around hydrogels. Yeah, hydrogels, that's what some people say is like used for the suspension of nanomaterials in the COVID-19 vaccine, right? Fuck it, we'll do it live. That's how we do it. 1924, Rudolf Steiner had biodynamic farming, precursor to smart farming, where he used UV light and silicon to grow plants. What the fuck? Founded the Esoteric School and the School for Spiritual Science that year. Top of the mountain, he ascended 3 times. 3 7-year life periods, or periods of life. Just as the germ bears within itself most concentrated forms of the history of the past and potentiality of the future life, so do the first 2 months of activity of Rudolf Steiner after the Christmas conference in Dornach include that which had been achieved and new beginning of what was to develop. Founding of the general anthroposophical society had taken place. At the last meeting of this Christmas conference, he spoke once more of the consecration poem of the foundation stone laying, and then expressed his thanks and good wishes to the friends who were to go away for the new... Okay. Movement through the years. For what? What movement is this? Okay. What is occurring through a lesson February 15th, course in anthroposophy. You have a link? That lipid nanoparticles through hydrogen may be an alternative name. Yeah, also for a while I was using these things, hydrocolloid band-aids. They absorb moisture from your wounds and makes it heal super fast, but I later researched what it was made from. Nanomaterials. Yep, synthetic hydrogels. What sort of backdoors are being added to your hard drive when you upload AI tech to your computer? For example, audio remix AI tech. I'm very hesitant to use any of it. I try to avoid AI whenever possible. Even when like Google spits out this bullshit right here, I'm just like, okay, I'm ignoring everything that's here. Just give me the links that I wanted over here to the right. I can't stand it when people use AI, man. It's like exactly what they want. And so where's the biodynamic farming? Decades expand. The results of research and the directives which he gave in a field of agriculture have since that time been put to the test by many thousands of practical farmers and gardeners in most of the countries. The Waldorf School. Biological Research Laboratory at the Goetheanum. Yeah, gold silica nanomaterials are in band-aids. Elon tweeting AI pedo cartoon porn. Yeah, fuck him, man. No, your enemy's man gonna need to understand AI to stay safe from it. Well, the way I see it is like, so a lot of people like to claim that these things are tools and that it matters who wields them, and that if they are put in the right hands that they can be used for good. And I disagree. And to me, AI, crypto, all of this technology is very similar to like a pneumatic pistol gun. And that's technology that was specifically designed to kill cattle. And so that's a tool. If you give that tool to the cow, what is the cow going to use it for to stop from getting murdered by it? What are they don't even have hands. And that metaphor, I think, is a very good one for what AI is. And you have people that are telling you that you'll be able to use it against them, or, like I just had an interview today where me and the host kind of disagreed on cryptocurrency, and they're like, well, I do think there is like some cryptocurrency that's based on privacy, and I'm like, dude, privacy doesn't fucking exist. Like, you don't understand. They have data centers upon data centers to brute force your shit. Even 5 years ago, we have computational power that we thought was theoretical back then. So I don't know what you're thinking is private, but nothing is private. Not online, not on the internet. That's for damn sure. And all crypto runs on the internet. Like, the other thing too is it's private right now. What happens 5 years from now when they say, okay, we're going to do KYC, and they have all your transactions and all of your information? Melanie Swan's transhuman crypto cloud mines sum up what you're saying. That wasn't my point at all. I'm saying it would make us wise to be familiar with patterns to understand when AI is being used to trick us. We cannot use it against elites. We can learn how to avoid it. Yeah. That's my thing, is like the second that the work is kind of done for me, the thinking is like done for me, that I feel like that's at least a good indication right now for being able to being able to determine whether or not something is AI. And that's why I try to avoid it as much as possible. Like those AI summaries that Google gives, or the Grok shit. I don't use like AI video editors. Anything that I can help. I turned off my fucking autocorrect on my phone, and it's been off for well over a year, despite the typos that I make. Specifically because if I'm gonna make, the effort to resist it in all ways possible, then let me manually fucking make a typo. Don't correct it for me. All right, nobody fucking move. What's up, dude? How goes it? We're looking at we're trying to figure out when the BioDigital convergence like officially started. And I think the best thing that I have so far is a couple of resources from the chat, and then this timeline from nano.gov. But we have a couple things, and like I said, guys, this is like a part one, right? That's probably going to take me quite a while, because I'm still actively like learning all this stuff as I go, and like as I talk to new guests and stuff, I'll slowly be adding this stuff to the map, and just kind of seeing where we get. And I think that'll be interesting. 1950. Theory and a process for growing monodisperse colloidal materials. H.R. Geiger knew, I bet. Probably. And this was Victor Lemur. And Robert Dinagar. In 1951, Erwin Mueller did the field ion microscope. Have a look at his art. Do you have some art I can look at? Thanks, I'll use duct tape. There's nanobots in the duct tape too, unfortunately. I'm kidding, I don't know. I wouldn't doubt it, but I don't know. So this was the field ion microscope. And then we had a guy from MIT coin a term. Of course, it was MIT. Molecular engineering. Arthur von Hippel. He went to MIT. MIT might have to come down and over. So he went to MIT. Bring this back. Bring this over. Okay. All right. All right. Arthur von Hippel. Jack Kilby. I thought that said Jack Kirby for just a second. I was like, wait a minute. What? Jack Kilby of Texas Instruments. I know who that is. Texas Instruments was huge during Silicon Valley. But integrated circuits. It was Jack Kilby, and we'll put Texas Instruments on there because they'll end up coming back up, especially with Shockley. Texas Instruments. And yes, this is the company that does the fucking calculators. There's a reason why they were standardized in schools. Great research, thank you. My autocorrect constantly tries to spell things wrong. I don't know if you'll notice this, but YouTube for the time being has practically turned off their censorship, like, not like literally, but they are letting some wild things stay up right now. I believe they let David Icke create a YouTube account again. And I was like, whoa, that's wild. I never thought I'd see David Icke back on YouTube. And that's where we get Feynman. So I'm just going to take plenty of room at the bottom. Look at that. Look at that. Set up for success. Can't teach that. Richie from Boston, Dollar Vigilante, 5 YouTube accounts restored. Shit. 1965. And we get Gordon Moore, Intel co-founder. Moore's Law. I think it's also important to put the companies, so you can just kind of see like who was kind of directing things in the direction they were going. Oh, here's that Taniguchi. of Tokyo Science University coined the term nanotechnology? Norio Taniguchi. And it was Tokyo Science University. Should have thrown this out earlier, but Pierre Teilhard de Chardin was the Jesuit who came up with the new sphere and the omega point. Is the omega point the singularity? Is that what they're referencing? Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding what that was. I was like, I've heard that before in this context. Could be something else, but I'm pretty sure. All right, and then this is, oh no, this is Tokyo Science University. All right. And this is just the timeline for Nanotech. 1981. 7 years later, we get the scanning tunneling microscope, allowing us to see the atom for the first time. And thus Feynman's dream of the telescope or the microscope that he wanted came true. What, like 22 years later? And they were at IBM's Zurich lab. So IBM comes into play again. They were the ones that helped with the computations on behalf of Feynman when he was working at the Manhattan Institute, or the Manhattan Project. Discovered nanocrystalline, Alexei Ekimov. Here, it might be better if I swap these. How's that? That's probably better. Okay. And so both of these were at the same time. Discovered nanocrystalline, semiconducting quantum dots in a glass matrix. And I think that's important as well, because that seems to be the precursor to like graphene. That was in 1981. H.R. Geiger is from Switzerland. I think they're taking away some censorship so they can put us on lists and incriminate ourselves in their minds. Fuck them. Send me to jail. I don't know what I did, but I'll go. In solidarity with all my dissenting pals. Look, they can't put all of us in jail, can they? They can. 1983. Just 2 years later, discovered that the properties of colloidal nanoparticles, specifically those made of cadmium sulfide, changes as the size of the nanoparticles change. What? The chemical properties? Or like okay, so the property of the material changes based on the size of the particles? So this sounds almost like nano architecting or like nano engineering, basically, where Danzig used his artwork for Lucifuge. We're all headed for a digital lockdown. Seems to be that way. Geiger was my favorite artist growing up. Oh, there's a link. I see. Oh, wow. That reminds me a lot of there was a game that came out a couple years ago called Scorn, I think it was, that it looks a lot like this. It also reminds me of like the Xenomorph a little bit. Field nanoparticles, specifically demonstrating that the properties of materials can change. Quantum dots. Louis Bruce. Look at that. MIT again. A new Nobel laureate describes the development of these nanoparticles from basic research to industry application. When you were working at Bell Labs in the 1980s and discovered quantum dots, it was something of an accident. So he was also at Bell Labs. So the properties discovered that the properties of colloidal nanoparticles change. And that was Louis Bruce, who I'm pretty sure that's who it was, right? Yeah, okay. And so he was at Bell Labs. Until up there. Yeah, Strange Cat, not Geiger. Also really inspired in the Alien movies, which are really heavy on AI themes and technological singularities. The alien is literally there in the spaceship to be acquired by the company. Yeah. Implementing their learning. What's up, Subliminal Messenger? Was an H.R. Geiger really into the occult? Alien the movie comes from Geiger's mind? Oh, shit. Ooh, there's Rice University. I haven't seen Rice come up in a while. It's out of Texas. Buckminster fullerene. A molecule resembling a soccer ball composed entirely of carbon. Uh-oh. This is where we're going to start getting carbon nanostructures. And that was Harold Kroto, Sean O'Brien, Robert Curl, and Richard Smalley out of Rice University. Also, apparently, Alien and Blade Runner are in the same universe, which could be why they have similar 80s retro future tech. 43 watching, 21 likes. Yeah, a lot of people don't like me, man. I don't know if it's because I call out basically everybody, or if it is I don't know what it is. I know a lot of the crypto bros do not like me. I know a lot of the Christian community does not like me, which is crazy because I'm not even hateful towards them, even though I think their beliefs are like part of the problem. I tend to be pretty respectful. But I don't receive that same you know. I just saw your chat with Monica Perez, so sub to 7Cs. Hey, thank you so much for that. What did you think of the deep dive into like the military industrial complex sort of setting the groundwork for VC capital for Silicon Valley, and how like MIT was involved and DARPA was involved and stuff? Because that stuff is almost necessary for like understanding some of this biodigital convergence stuff. Because like when MIT comes up, or like Kleiner Perkins, or Bell Labs or Sun Microsystems come up, you have all that context now, and you're like, oh, okay, military. I thought it was extremely helpful. It's also incestuous. You have no idea. I mean, I think you probably have a pretty good idea, but it does get pretty crazy. Like this is 90s Silicon Valley in a nutshell, and kind of goes back to like the stuff I was talking about with that ARDC company and Vannevar Bush and Carl Taylor Compton and things like that. Thank you for watching. So why does it, oh, I see. Okay. So then Louis Bruce in 1985 also comes up with colloidal semiconductor crystals, aka quantum dots. But they said that in 1981 that Alexei Ekimov put semiconducting quantum dots in a glass matrix. So how did he come up with quantum dots if they were invented 4 years prior? I don't understand that. Quantum dot. They pay poachers to literally hunt animals or pangolins. Also, 7Cs, I recommend you looking into an animal smuggling and the pangolin trade and the CCP connection. I've been working on a script about it, but it's a very screwed up rabbit hole. Is that what South Park was trying to tell us? Where's Sab? Sounds totally feasible and typical. Yep. Absolutely. And this was also Louis Bruce. So it requires insane logistics. Yeah, I mean, I'm always down. Usually it just comes down to a matter of like my bandwidth, which has been very narrow lately. But once I get this biodigital convergence stuff mapped out and I can like share it with people and educate them, I'm down. IBM and 35 xenon atoms to smuggle tigers and rhinos. Is it for the fur and the ivory? Invented the atomic force microscope. The capability to view, measure, and manipulate materials down to fractions of a nanometer in size. That's terrifying. I feel like we should have just stopped at some point along the way. Like, we've gone too far. We need to turn around. Looked into Beckman Life Sciences, which has connections to microbiology. I think I have Beckman somewhere on one of my webs. I have Beckman Instruments and Beckman Research Institute. And it looks like, yeah, that had to do with like the MIT stuff. And the Beckman Research Institute is where they came up with recombinant DNA alongside people from Genentech. So I do know that. Ivory is very expensive to sell, so it goes to the black market. There's no breaks, bro. I know. I know. It sucks. And the worst part is like taking into context everything that's happening and seeing honestly like the lack of reaction, I guess, is the more accurate way to phrase it. We're kind of fucked. I hate to be that guy that says it, but at some point we do have to acknowledge, like, what do we do? I always see people like, well, we don't want a black pill, we want to be solution oriented. What are your solutions, brother? Because like, unless you have a way to get up and take out their fucking satellites and like EMP the entire planet, I'm having a hard time believing the feasibility. And until we can all come to that like understanding, how are we ever going to have like honest conversations about ways to avoid it? Most people won't even acknowledge how bad it is. Stay offline. Well, the whole reason I'm even still here to begin with is to tell other people. And nobody's listening. It honestly, like, it does. I always wonder like how people that have been doing this for years don't go fucking insane. Still need to read that Sixth Extinction book. One rabbit hole leads to another all the time. Beckman Life Sciences about corporate timeline. I'll have to take a look at that. I'll check that out when I pull up my Silicon Valley web again, because I definitely need to build that out and get the Genentech stuff in there. Because that is really important. Genentech is an important part to the nanotech biology part of all of this. A lot of people don't even know what Genentech is. They do go insane. Well, I'm starting to feel kind of like I'm going crazy, because it feels like every day I wake up and I am clocking in to yell at a brick wall. And I'm tired of it. And I have only been doing this for like a year. And I'm like, how do people not understand what is going on? Oh, it's so frustrating. It's not black pilled. I created a new category called clear pilled. Folks need to get real quick. Yes, they absolutely do. And I even talked about that, where I was like, that's one of my number one things that I have an issue with the truther community, is that when I start to get real about these things, people will like shy away from it, and they're like, well, that's demoralizing and shit. And I'm like, yeah, it fucking is. What are we gonna do about it? It sucks, doesn't it? It really fucking sucks, doesn't it? But until we can acknowledge how bad it fucking sucks, we're never gonna get anywhere. And nobody's willing to do that, because they don't want to be seen as like negative or, like demoralizing people. And I'm like, look, the real demoralization is making everyone think that everything's so fucking peachy hunky dory. And we continue to get fucked the way that we have basically since history started. Ooh, here was that 35 individual xenon atoms to spell out the IBM logo. But I do like that because you're right in that, like, you know, if we just keep hiding behind this term of like black pilled, I mean, it is literally just the conspiracy theorist of 2025. That's what they were saying about all the people that ended up being right about COVID. People like their I know nothing bubbles. They prefer head in the sand mentality. They feel safer that way. To accept what you are stating, many would have to dismantle their entire self. What you share can potentially break the reality of already emotionally and mentally unstable people. How do we stabilize? I think that there needs to be a massive social shift away from protecting people's egos and preconceived notions. It seems more often than not that instead of us focusing on the pursuit of truth, we focus on the warping of truth to fit our preconceived biases. And a lot of the times I've noticed too, like I'm having to struggle with wanting to maintain civility with people that I interact with and correcting them on things that they're wrong about. Because I want to convince them otherwise, but the second that I do it the wrong way, they'll never look into it. It becomes about ego. The surviving thinking humans probably need to come together. Yes. I feel like a lot of rich oligarchs use poachers to fund like trophy hunting. A lot of rich people are big on expensive clothing via horrible means like mink furs and stuff. Oh yeah, I mean Andrew Carnegie was funding Teddy Roosevelt's hunting expeditions back in the day. Tell all these critics to Lego my ego. Exactly. Can't focus on solutions until you identify and analyze a problem. Ego is the biggest enemy and none of us are immune. Yeah, it sucks. It is the way it is, and I will, I'll always be honest about that. But you're right. There's an aspect of pushing against ocean waves and conspiracy theory. Yeah, I've also noticed, like, I see a lot of people, they align themselves with like certain groups and cliques and stuff, right? I'm not part of any group. I'm not part of any clique. I have people whose research I like because it's accurate and pertinent to the topics that are important. But I don't agree with anybody like 100% on anything, and that to me keeps me from aligning myself with people. Like some people will agree with me 90% on stuff and then think that there's good crypto out there. And that alone makes me go, I don't really want to be associated with like people that push crypto. So like, we can talk about why I think it's bad, but I'm not going to like endorse you or anything you say or anything like that because I don't know. I don't know. And, I know that's like the final level of the psyop is where you just believe everything's fake and you can't trust anybody. What can you do? Because fuck crypto. Yeah, 100%. Or even like the truthers in the community, it's like I'll be listening to them. And they're like, we need to take down these technocrats. We need to educate everybody. We need to stick together. And then they're like, Christ is king. And I'm like, fuck. So what's the bedrock that gonna keep you steady, Mr. Seven? Um, I think finding purpose is probably the most important thing. Um, and couldn't crypto provide you with a stepping stone to build for what's coming? Uh, Interesting saying that. It's so when we created the Federal Reserve and came out with the reserve currency note, it is the same kind of thing, where it's like, you know, why wouldn't you trade in your gold for fiat currency? It's so much easier to hold, and it's more convenient, and you can use it everywhere. And then we got rid of gold. And that's what's going to happen with crypto, is once everybody's using it, then, you know, we won't have physical currency anymore. And that's the problem, is, you know, once it's completely digital, it is literally all fake. Like it's 99% fake right now. The only thing that is semi-legitimate about it is that there is a physical currency that you can use. That is the only upside to fiat currency, is that there is a physical representation that you can trade between people privately. You can hand someone $20 and the government will never know. Can't do that with crypto. None of them. They'll claim to be a privacy coin. I don't give a shit. Every encryption is breakable, especially in the military industrial complex. Like they're dealing with shit that is leagues and leagues above, with all of this compute power, and it far outweigh, like that's what people don't understand, right? Like people come out with these cryptocurrencies and you get the smartest fucking coder you can to come up with the best possible security. They have a network of people that are better than that person, that are all actively working to monitor these things. We have data centers dedicated to brute forcing encryption everywhere. We have AI, we have quantum computing. Like there's all of these things. Privacy and encryption and security, that shit does not exist away from the government. The only thing that's going to keep you private from is like other individuals who can't afford to brute force the security. You can't stuff your mattress with crypto. Exactly. And worst case scenario, you know, if the dollar crashed to zero tomorrow, you can still burn it to stay warm. Can't do that with crypto. The internet goes out. What the fuck you gonna do? The power goes out. What the fuck you gonna do? So do you have like a 7Cs network of people you rock with? There are people that I liked, or that I do like, and I like their information. But I don't want to be like a leader or anything. I'm not trying to like be in charge of people. I don't want to like run a movement. You know, that I'm just here to like educate people and learn myself. You know, I'm bad at taking fucking compliments. I don't have what it takes to like be in charge of people. I have a problem with authority and people telling me what to do. So I don't ever want to be seen as like something. I don't want to be a figure, because that doesn't feel right. Because I'm just a guy. Sell a kidney, sell an egg, big money in eggs right now. True. Ooh, carbon nanotubes. Here we go. I knew we were about to get to those. The second I saw the carbon, this thing right here, the Buckminster fullerene, I knew carbon nanotubes were close. Your hair has sheen. It kind of does. But I think it's from the light, maybe. Why do people seek leaders? Strange. That's what I don't understand. Like, I would never join any of these people because then, like, there are expectations of me. Nobody should expect anything from me. Ever. And then it's like, oh, now I have to worry about what I say to certain people and step on people's toes. And then that just increases the likeliness for, like, personal drama. And, like, I'm good on all that, bro. I don't have time for that. Nobody has time for any of that shit. Like, we shouldn't be arguing with each other about fucking anything, really. Compliment accepted. Well, I was going to say it's mostly the light that's doing that. The light and the grease. As has been touched on, the problem is the inevitable infiltration. Yeah, I mean, that's what we always see is any form of collectivizing always either gets subverted, shut down, murdered. You know, like one of the ones that kind of come to mind in recent memory, obviously, like Occupy Wall Street, right? You guys remember when we were like actually kind of somewhat, you don't mesmerize them with your charisma. Wait, hold up. Clipped. Damn it. You have what it takes to set an example, though, that is very clear. The fact you don't want to possess it may make you one of the few truly capable of pulling it off in a different way. Just a thought. Man, it's so tough. Follow the watch. Keep your eyes on the watch. It's tough because I don't like most people, and it's one of those things where I don't think I have the patience to be in charge. I don't think I would be a good leader, and the reason why is because I have extremely high expectations for myself and for others. And I'm very quick to criticize. And I also suffer from imposter syndrome and fear of failure. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Homogenous societies don't get infiltrated as easily, to each their own. That is true. I was a founding member of Occupy LA. Hell yeah, but can we handle a real revolution? Are we ready? I mean, you know, okay, so I want to frame something here as a complete hypothetical. Realistically, it would take about 500 extremely motivated individuals. Like to the point where they're willing to die for the cause, right? Like they are willing to go to jail for life. They're willing to die. They're willing to be tortured. They're willing to give up everything that they care about. There's only 50 states. There's only so many representatives per state. There's only so many billionaires. 500 people in the country, spread out strategically. Just saying, hypothetically, it could work. They just got to be willing to do the extreme. Turning the wheel of the hero's journey, Seven Seas has accepted the call and collects helpers and mentors on his way to the abyss. Look, I'm going to the abyss and I'm going to go take a nap. That's about where I'm at. I'm like, look, you guys just let me do my research and tell people about stuff. Stop trying to, like, man, I've been like, people trying to offer me sponsors and fucking all kinds of shit. I'm like, I don't want that. I'm not here for money. Money is not going to help me or anybody 5 years from now. Like, what the fuck am I going to do with money? Money's about to be fucking obsolete. Okay, so we have 1992 C.T. Krej and colleagues at Mobile Oil discovered that nanostructured catalytic materials MCM41 and MCM48, now used heavily in refining crude oil as well as for drug delivery, water treatment, and other varied applications. And so, what is MCM? I swear, if this is fucking graphene. There's no bronze-striated acid centers because there is no aluminum contained in the lattice. To achieve a defined pore diameter, surfactants are used that form micelles in the synthesis solution. These micelles form templates that help build up the mesoporous framework. Okay. Okay. I didn't understand any of that. I mean, I hate to be the black pill guy, but no, I doubt there's any realistic way to sneak up on elites and dominate them. They know what we say, what we do, where we are. Well, I mean, you just got to not have a phone. If you just don't have a phone on you, I mean, okay, so like these motherfuckers go meet at Davos every year, right? And they tell us when they're going to be there, right? I'm just saying, it might not be as hard as everyone makes it out to be. I just don't think anybody's like, bro, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it, right? Because the repercussions. On YouTube channel Project Farm, a 13-minute video, best water filter compares 5 popular filtering systems. Worth watch. You need a wizard doctorate in your ship to explain biochemistry and shit. I absolutely do need somebody to break all of this shit down. The problem is the lingoism. They use so many terms that you have to go look up just to see what those mean, and then bring all of that back into the context and then try to understand what the fuck they're talking. I'm not good at science. I'll tell you guys that right now. Not have a phone, huh? What about Wi-Fi routers, IoT devices, satellites, mRNA that can be manipulated remotely? Oh, I just meant like, you know, if you're not talking about what you're doing digitally and you just go do it, but you have 500 people do it all at the same time, it'd have to be like a sleeper cell kind of situation almost. I took an EKG class to help you, but it didn't go well. Oh no. All the water is going to AI data centers. Yeah, isn't there something in Texas right now where everything's popping off because the data centers are sucking up all the water? You adopt the enemy's tactics, use code words, VHF radios, Laura, everybody is a Luigi. From Mario Brothers, right? They can drop dust over your home and you'll be dead from cancer within weeks. Yeah, but so you're saying I have a couple, I have weeks then. Rip impatience at Norfolk Medical between 7 and 8 p.m. yesterday. What happened at Norfolk Medical? My science. Yeah, science is tough. Maybe it's because I'm not one of these people that none of it makes sense to me. I'm like, you guys are just making shit up. and you just happen to have enough money and influence to be like, whatever, fuck it, make it work. And then people smarter than them figure out how. Love you, work 7. Greetings from Australia. Hello. Or should I say, good eye? Mesh-tastic devices, get them. Luigi Mangione. Damn it. YouTube's not going to like that. Or maybe they will. I don't know. Hope they have good insurance. Hey. So this was CT Kregase. Kresge? How do you say this guy? Kresge. Kresge? Maybe it's Kresge. Kresge? I don't know. Either way, it doesn't matter. Oh, look, MIT coming back up again. I'm telling you guys, if you look into any part of like the technological aspects of the military industrial complex, you will eventually stumble upon MIT. I'm assuming very quickly, and then you'll realize how many people that push all of this shit, the technocratic agenda, everything like that. Most of them went to MIT, Stanford, fucking Berkeley, or Caltech, Columbia. And it's like those 5 schools alone, the second I see that someone's from there, I'm like, I don't trust you. And that's that was my number one reason to question. Yeah, Rice University is another one. They're down in Texas. That's a good point. Like Thomas Massey. I don't trust Thomas Massey. A, MIT. B, developed technocratic fucking technology that got funded by all kinds of shady companies. He sold it, became a millionaire. He was funded by MIT labs, the same MIT labs that Epstein was giving money to. I'm not saying that any of that Epstein money floated over to Thomas Massey directly, but MIT Media Labs is not a good thing. And then now he's in office, so he's part of the government. That's another reason I don't fucking trust anything that he says, because the second someone gets into government, they should be blowing the whistle on everything. Because they learn and they know things that we don't. And they could bring that shit up all the time. Instead, what does he do? He complains about the bills in Congress that we can all go fucking look at, that are all accessible right there. And he's like the one of 2 guys that will just sit there and complain and then never move the needle at all anywhere. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I know what this is. And then on top of all of that, he's funded by Jeff Yoss, Zionist, Jewish, pro-Israeli billionaire, who's in bed with people like Peter Thiel and donates to the Kohelet Policy Forum, which is the think tank in Israel that basically runs the fucking Knesset, which is basically that is the government of Israel. So the guy that funds the think tank that influences the government of Israel just so happens to fund Thomas Massey, and no one else finds that weird. And he funds Ron Paul. He actually gives Ron Paul millions of dollars. He's only give Thomas Massey like 200,000 or something. Now through Club for Growth, one of the political action committees that Thomas Massey gets money from, also is funded primarily by Jeff Yoss and Peter Thiel and Robert Mercer. All people that are pro-Israel, pro-Zionist. The Club for Growth also funds people like Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton. He puts nano in himself to enhance himself or something. In Bed with Peter Thiel sounds like a good horror movie title. Actually, it's funny you say that, because if you look up Jeff Thomas He used to be in bed with Peter Thiel and then magically killed himself by jumping off of a building shortly after Peter Thiel had named him as like some sort of beneficiary. Rice is also founders of the Salin Institute Superhuman Studies program. What the fuck? Did you guys know that we're going to have the enhanced games next year, allegedly? Which is basically the Olympics, but there's no rules against performance enhancing. So you can be biologically changed, you can do steroids, all kinds of shit. And they're supposed to have that next year, allegedly. What's the top med school in USA? Michigan and Michigan State, Indiana, a lot in East to Mid-America, old school tech. I think John Hopkins is probably like the #1 medical school. As far as influence goes, he was one of Peter Thiel's former lovers. Yeah. About the guy with sociopathy who kills people. $6 million man Olympics. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go look up the enhanced games. It's crazy as Peter Thiel's boyfriend's death is very similar to a director who was killed by the Yakuza by being thrown off a building. Pretty sketch. The True Olympics jumped out of a window. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Bed Bath & Beyond guy. So the guy that's currently in charge of GameStop, Ryan Cohen, he originally got seed funded by BlackRock. And a lot of people don't know that. He's also the #1 holder of Apple stocks. And so when Ryan Cohen was part of Bed Bath & Beyond, they ended up basically crashing Bed Bath & Beyond doing this giant pump and dump scheme. And Ryan Cohen was listed as one of the people that was involved. 3 weeks later, the chief financial officer of Bed Bath & Beyond, probably the star witness to the case, jumps off a building and kills himself. And then it's like a year later, Ryan Cohen is just like let go. And nothing, no wrongdoing whatsoever. And then he goes and runs GameStop and he's like, hey, we should pump this price of this stock of this company that I run. You know, nothing like Bed Bath & Beyond at all. Show me the clips of Thomas Massey accusing isn't real of genocide. Show me the clips of Thomas Massey accusing his government of being complicit in the Holocaust. Oh, wait, those don't exist. I'll do you one better. How about a clip of Thomas Massey saying that he doesn't think we should sanction Israel or anything like that? How about this?
By the way, let me just put a little footnote here. I'm not against Israel.
Boom.
I've never voted to sanction Israel.
Boom.
I've never said anything particularly, critical of Israel.
Boom.
Other than, for instance, right now they're bombing. They've killed 1% of the
Still no use of the word genocide.
Civilian population in Gaza. That's concerning to me.
Concerning.
But so what do they do? By the way,
crazy. The name for being thrown out of a window of a tall building or off a building itself is called defenestration. So if you do it yourself, is it called self-defenestration? Self-defenestrizing? Boom. When does bro finish? I morally can't close. Who, me? High-speed vertical unaliving. I like it. We're using liberal terminology now. Like post-traumatic stress disorder. Develop synthesis methods to produce quantum dots of specific sizes, which was necessary for commercial applications. If you jump off a building while on fire, it's self-immofreezing. The G word is verboten. Massey's wife murder is very suspicious, and the way he seemed to nonchalantly handle it comes off to me as sacrificing a loved one to be part of the club. And how about the fact that he's like real cozy with like this Ukrainian Jewish lady now, and he has grown his beard out and he's starting to tan and all that shit. Like, yeah, I agree. I think he brought up APAC on that Tucker Carlson show because his... Oh, I think my camera died. My camera died. What guy? Jeff Thomas? Or no, Bed Bath & Beyond guy? Who are we talking about? Did that work? Let's see. Oh, wait for it. Are we back? All right. Sorry about that. Anyway. Gravity fed self-murk. He was part of Bed Bath & Beyond, but the guy went beyond the rail when he allegedly jumped off the building. Yeah, he made his bed in the street and bathed it in his entrails by going beyond the rail. Parts his hair differently. How many people in real life do you know that know about the BioDigital stuff? 2. Me and my lady. No, I've talked to do you guys know The Last American Vagabond? So we live relatively near each other. And I like, you know, I've been to his house a couple times to do shows and stuff, and me and him have like talked online and offline about biodigital convergence. And he actually, like, the last interview that I did on his show, we talked mainly about biodigital convergence, and he ended up prefacing that with like this huge report that he did. And I really, really appreciated that he did that, because some of the concepts and stuff that we end up talking about like go a little beyond the pale for most people. And I wouldn't even consider myself like an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but there was so much that needed to be known before going into that conversation. So I'm glad that he like laid out that context. Doing the same thing to Massey as they did to Trump, fake attacks to make him look like he's not part of the establishment. Yes, exactly. Have you seen the Bluetooth MAC address being emitted from vaccinated? I've heard about that a lot. But I've never seen it demonstrated in front of me. Only shows Bluetooth MAC addresses on Android phones. Vagabond's good. I think he's a good dude. But again, it is one of those things. Me and him don't agree on everything. And I don't think I would ever, like, align myself with anybody. Right? But he's solid. He's a good guy, and I think he does legitimately care. We have some differing opinions on some stuff. But that's okay. I did an episode about Sabrina as soon as I could. You CIA or what? Wait, what? Am I CIA? I don't even know how to spell CIA. Oh, JC. Oh, I see. Okay. My fault. My fault. I thought you were asking if I was CIA. I'm like, man, how much do they pay? I'll go and I will be the Delta airline pilot of the CIA. I'll be the DEI Delta airline pilot, and I will crash it from within. Obviously, he's not CIA. He's Mossad. Yeah, and Vandersteel, you know, called me Mossad, so it must be true. JC is CIA, chilling in America. MIC CIA OUSOB. Ryan Christian is not MAGA. No, he's not. Like Vagabond Show, I don't agree with this stuff fully though. Too religious. He is Christian. Yes, that was the main disagreement that we were talking about. Look up Tom Alexandrovich is Netanyahu's top cybersecurity guy, already back in Israel, no repercussions, still employed, etc. The 7 others arrested with him still face charges. Yeah, I saw that. I also saw that the lady that did it is associated with a company that Michael Flynn is a part of. Vagabond talks over his guests. I feel like every conversation we've had has been really good. I feel like a lot of the time when I'm doing like interviews and stuff, it almost feels like I'm the one doing too much talking. I was actually I was just on with Jason Bassler earlier today, and we were talking about like Palantir and shit. Actually, this Massey stuff came up, and you know, it was one of those things where I'm like, I'm glad that we can disagree and still have like a conversation. So like they said what they think, I said what I think. They challenged my position. I backed up my position. They respectfully disagreed and we moved on. And I think that's okay. You need to do that thing I brought up on Twitter post. Haste to distribute this stuff and get help. That was the GitHub stuff, right? Okay, it's the Christian thing. Flynn loves the 7 rays of Lucius Trust. Yes, he does. He loves Apollo, the Lightbringer, all of it. All right, so I'm going to take this National Nanofabrication Users Network. And that was through the government sector. Through the National Science Foundation. And don't forget, the National Science Foundation was basically inspired by the Rockefeller Foundation. Like, I would consider, for most of the initial inception of the National Science Foundation, it was basically just the government version of the Rockefeller Foundation. My book, I too am a Christian, but I have many non-Christian friends. And see, the fact that you're your beliefs differ from mine and you're not willing to like automatically write off everything else that I say because we disagree on that one point is something that I appreciate. She was born and raised in Israel. Her name's isn't it Sigal Shata? Trump appointed her in spite of over 100 judges. She wasn't even confirmed yet. Take you 3 minutes to get her done. Will do. Yeah, it's not something I'm like intentionally trying to put off. I'm just I've been exhausted lately and I am kind of overwhelmed a little bit with some of the stuff I have going on. And that's not like to try to get pity or anything because I'm the one that chose to be involved with these things. But it's also like taken up a good amount of time and I also forget shit a lot. Which is also why I map all of these things out so that I can remember them, I can reference them and stuff. My memory is really shit. And that's also why that's one of the few reasons why I don't like debating. I also think debating is just sort of like an ego, like pageantry kind of thing. Very rarely do I see like opinions actually change based on, a debate. So I don't really see the point. The truther channels tend to meld in the Christian messages all by design. Yes. Yeah, the Noahide laws are a very real part of this thing, and I think that Christianity is sort of the way that they are shoehorning all of that shit in. Have you looked into the Pacers family that came here in the 1400s, elites from England? I've brought up the Pacers a couple times, and I've like mentioned them before on podcasts. I think when I was on Tinfoil Hat, Sam Tripoli started to talk about them, and he was like, Mel K brought up this family that you're not supposed to say, and I was like, what, the Pacers? And he was like, oh! I was like, what? What, you afraid to say the Pacers? What about the Orsinis? So I thought that was funny. Man, where this guy also did the method for controlled synthesis of nanocrystals. Insane. B7, I want to challenge something you just said. You said you have a bad memory and use digital mind maps to help remember. How is that different from the way people use AI to do work faster? Because AI is the relenting of the agency of the process of thought. So they aren't able to control and discern the way that they are receiving that information from that AI. This is different in the sense that everything that I'm doing is manual, and is not being generated through an automation. Now, granted, like if we're gonna do the whole pissing contest like Spectrum thing or whatever, being on the internet at all, ends up becoming a little bit of hypocrisy. I guess my point is that if we lost electricity and stuff, your mind maps would be gone. Correct. That is true. Now I have weighed the option of like getting my maps printed out, whether that's just like distribute or people have said that they are willing to buy them. I don't really like the idea of that. Maybe like putting it on t-shirts and stuff. I actually have a couple shirts with webs on them that I did. If we lost electricity, I doubt he'll be worrying about mind maps. That is true. use tech assistants, but not AI. Yeah, it's tough because at the end of the day, like, I would say the Amish are really like the closest thing that we have to anybody that's actually doing something that I think is worth it. But the truth is a very heavy burden. You're doing great. Thanks, Colin. I appreciate that. But yeah, much to your point, yes, if we lost electricity, my mind maps would be lost. AI is a threat. I can clearly see that, but I also use it a lot. I try to practice self-discipline and remain grounded, though. I'll put it to you like this. Why don't you turn Amish? Too religious. I am working on trying to get to the means to become more off-grid. But it is kind of expensive. And I make about... where I'm pacing right now, I'm set to make about $7,000 this year. So that doesn't exactly get me out of here and to go be Amish. Recently, they redefined AI as a word for chatbot. I don't like that. The Amish will have AI drones for them. The Amish is a cult. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? That's why I was like, I don't know if I would be Amish, right? It's and they have a lot of the negative downsides that come with the religious part, like very strict rules, which I'm also not okay with. You know, that's the whole reason I don't like government. I don't want anybody telling me what the fuck to do. Good point. Mind maps can be printed. I forget about printers. Yeah, and it could be one of those things where I could, draw these out by hand. It would just take forever, and I don't think it's really a conducive use of my time. But yeah, lifelog map, Facebook map shirt. I'm down. Do you guys know that I have a shirt that says all of your your favorite politician is a satanic pedophile? 7,002, baby. Hold on, let me go call my guy real quick. Who is my accountant? Could make a short 40-page paperback on all the mind maps. Possibly. I know some of them get a little insane. Like the Peter Thiel Elon Musk one, which is still like I'm adding to it on occasion. It's pretty fucking big. And I don't know how to take this and turn it into a book. Thank you for the $2, Subliminal Messenger. Lifelog XAI, Zuckerberg, Musk, DARPA boys. Don't know how expensive that would be to print though. A shit ton. Amish lean on the English a lot. If we don't take them fuel, they effed. Yes. Richard Grove has maps he's worked on for years. It's insane. Yeah, that I've spoken with Richard Grove before, and I gotta tell you guys, he's pretty smart. He's the only other person that I have ever talked to that has ever brought up. So I brought up Thorstein Veblen earlier, and everybody that I've ever brought him up to has no idea who it is. And I bring him up, and Richard's like, oh, yeah, I know Thorstein, and like starts going into shit. And I'm like, finally, somebody else knows who the fuck this guy is. Where can I get that? AI thinks for the user in many ways it's kind of similar to like algebraic calculators. Well, I see it like it's one of those things where, when you smoke cigarettes, it damages your lungs. But if you're just smoking one cigarette, you don't notice it. By the time you've done it for 10 years, you start to notice. And I think that AI is very much the same, where every time you use it, it takes a little more of your critical thinking. But it's like a negligible amount. until it's not. And I kind of see AI as sort of that same thing, especially like the way that we're biologically wired, because it gives you that instant gratification of knowledge. You get the serotonin rush, you know, especially if it like strokes your confirmation biases. That's always a good feeling as well, and that gets you to use it more. And I just see it as like a slippery slope. And you know, it is one of those things where like, oh, you sound like the guy that, you know, used to complain that cars were going to take out the horse and carriage. And it's like that. I mean, yes, to a degree, that's exactly what I'm talking about. But this is, for the first time in human history, we have a product that is capable of replacing human consciousness, and that is the problem. Because we are now the horse and buggies. And if people don't have a problem with that, go look at the horse and buggy industry. That's going to be all of humanity. And that's what people don't understand, why AI is different. Look where we went from smartphones, wait 3 years after AI is everywhere. Yeah, I mean, hell, you know, it was, what, 2 years ago we were getting like the Will Smith eating spaghetti deepfakes? And now every company and every website has AI built into it. All of them. Godzilla has lung cancer, allegedly. Great Theft World every Sunday night on Rumble. Yeah, Richard's great. I was on there once. It was right around the time that Tim Pool brought up the Chatham House rules bullshit. We're not commodities and AI cannot replace us, apples and oranges. I agree that we are not commodities. You tell that to the people that are funding and building and installing the AI and changing all of the laws to accommodate it. Because I guarantee you, Larry Fink sees us as commodities. If AI was sentient, which it is not, it would be jealous of us. The company AI being hacked by prompt hacking and others. It admits it has limits. Well, see, that's the other thing that I hate too, right? Is the personification of it at all. Like people sort of frame it as like it's a person. And I'm like, it's already done. Like, people have given this thing a personality in their head. And it's a computer. It's just a bunch of computers, but people are starting to reference it. Larry Fink is making himself unnecessary. I disagree. I think they're about to rob the treasury and crash the economy, and they're going to get everybody on energy-based currency via crypto, and they're going to own all the energy and all the currency. Didn't a lot of hacker groups get nuked by the CIA, though? Probably. CIA, Mossad. The AI cigarette analogy is brilliant, man. Well put. Thank you. Study reveals universal brainwave frequencies. How about a USB we could purchase of your most popular maps someday? I'm good with that. I don't want to sell my information. So I'm under the belief that, because I have a couple maps out where I've like exported them as an image and put them on Dropbox for people to download for free. But like, I'm okay with selling shirts and shit. I think that's a little different. I'm literally like giving you something to clothe yourself with. Information, I think, should always be free. I don't believe in paywalls. I don't believe in subscriptions in order to gain access to information. In my opinion, if you want to support me, feel free. I'm going to try to convince you not to. But when people create like a level of access through a paywall for information, well, now you're doing a disservice to the public. USB on an optional donation basis is okay. Well, see, what I would love to do is like, I would love to host my own event. And one of the like things you get in your like goodie bag is a USB with all of my mind maps on them. And like, I don't know, a cup made from metal or something to avoid the microplastics. Fuck yeah, open source information movement 100%. Yeah, and so like I'm never going to do a paywall. I'm never going to be like even on Substack and stuff, people were like, you're doing it all wrong. Like you're supposed to release it to your paid people first and then your free people. And I'm like, no, that's stupid. Can you share a quick rundown on Thorstein Veblen? Seen him, but haven't looked into him yet. So Thorstein Veblen, he's been connected to a lot of things, especially through like academia. I believe he has some ties to the Council on Foreign Relations. I could be wrong there. Don't quote me on that. But he was essentially like a philosopher. I'm 99% sure he was a Jewish philosopher. And, you know, he started off with science, realized that science wasn't really his realm because it had limitations based on like the physical. So he started getting into like social sciences and like philosophical sciences and shit. And he ended up becoming a figure at this thing called New School for Social Research. And it was there that he gave a bunch of presentations and stuff that would lay the foundation of philosophy and idealism that would become the technocracy movement like 10 years later. First iPhone was only released in 2007. Look how fast phones evolved in 18 years. Yeah. But GitHub is Microsoft and uses their data to train Copilot. I know. Dude, everything is owned. It fucking sucks. What can you do? That's kind of why I like created my own site, which, you know, that's just run on Cloudflare. Cloudflare is playing ball. But it's really all I could fucking do. I can't afford to like set up my own server, and even if I do, I'm just connecting to fucking ARPANET. So we would have to create like a decentralized internet that doesn't run on blockchain. Fuck that bullshit, because blockchain's fucked. The second you have a majority, you basically run the chain and they can just buy the majority. It would have to be something where there is no consensus governance. It's the fucking Wild West all over again. Researchers at Cornell made the world's smallest guitar out of crystalline silicon, no larger than a single cell. This nano guitar was 10 micrometers long with 6 strings about 50 nanometers or 100 atoms wide. Jesus. And so once I have this timeline sort of established, I feel like I can look at like the major beats and start looking at those things like year over year and kind of go from there. So I think once we get to 2000s, I'm probably going to have to stop with like this is a huge part of it. When Clinton launched the National Nanotech Initiative in 2000, that was like a major fucking turning point for nanotech. That was essentially, so in the episode with Monica that I just did, I talk about how the military basically created venture capital funding, and that ended up creating the venture capital system that propped up all of Silicon Valley and most companies today. And that was essentially Vannevar Bush convincing the government to start dumping money into military research and technology development. And then we started to get, you know, nukes and drones and bombs and all these things, right? So Clinton did almost the exact same thing, but specifically for nanotechnology. Or people within that sphere. I know China is big on biotech. Oh yeah. Yeah, China's biotech, digital surveillance, biometrics. Russia's working on fucking CBDCs. You have the UAE, who is they're basically a fucking communist government at this point, because the government, which owned most of the infrastructure companies, have now given away their ownership of those infrastructure companies to a private company that is run by the NSA director that's in the government. That would be like if Jeff Bezos was our national security advisor and the US government decided to take all of our energy companies, all of our water companies, local municipalities, all of our airports, all of our railways and everything, and basically put them under Amazon, and then put Jeff Bezos in the government. That's what's happening in the UAE right now. Nonprofit CEO in the early 2000s bought up my biodiesel plans. You guys enjoying your biodiesel cars? Nope. Jesus, it's like every country is a CIA satellite state. Yep. And you know who's in charge of the CIA? Basically Mossad and British intelligence. And some German. I mean, they're basically Americanized now, but Operation Paperclip, that was like the Jewing of intelligence agencies, essentially. That's what's happening in the USA as well. Palantir, yeah. He got married to Miss Anthrope. Amazing. Okay, let me go back to... That was 97, because I only have 4 minutes left on stream, everybody, and then Twitter's going to cut me off automatically. When you schedule a stream for a particular time, Twitter requires you to list an end time. And I put 3.5 hours. I know that's probably a little long for some people. Usually we used to do 4, but I also noticed that was a little long for people. So trying to cut it down a little bit. And we didn't quite get to anything that I kind of wanted to cover for the most part. But that's fine. I think we made some progress, and I kind of understand the timeline a little better with Nanotech. I understand like some of the people that were involved, and I think that's important. Did you guys learn something today? I think that's important as well. Or some minor. Wait, what? 100 Jewish. 14 eyes. Ooh, or hypersonic jet manufacturer Ursa Major up there. Maybe. Working with Palantir and AI to spy on us at hyperspeed. What up, Kurt? What's up, everybody? All you need is a goat, and you can see anywhere on Earth. The men who stare at goats. Hey, man, please take care of your brain. Get some rest when you can. You only get 1 brain per visit. You know, that is true. That is true. I have been kind of taking it easy lately. And a lot of that is because it's like fucking exhausting trying to do this day in and day out. Not that I'm complaining by any means. It does take a lot out of me. And I'm trying to make sure that I can be here for the long haul, because it is a marathon, not a sprint. And so if you guys ever see me like missing a stream day or something like that, it's probably something to do with my health, or I just have like something going on. Not like I'm like dying or anything. It's just some days I just have some shit going on and I just don't feel very good. But I have 1 minute left, so I do want to thank some people that stopped by. We had some new people today as well. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Subliminal Messenger. What's up, buddy? Yoga. Sorry came in on the tail end here. In Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and MAGA. Thank you, Radio Sack, DC Right 1, Cubertimo, Curtis V45. We had Ghost Short Films. Thank you for joining the stream here. Subliminal Messenger, Sanchez Montebello, Dave from 804 RVA. We had so many people. Herschel Sterling, Stella Q, thanks for joining us. Glad you liked the Monica episode. It was an excellent conversation. Luke Brown. Who else? It's Cubertimo. Oh, my fault. Jackie Blue, thank you. AWOL American. Cocoa Biscuits was here. Thank you guys all so much. And I appreciate the support. I will be live tomorrow. No, I won't. Tomorrow's Friday. Sorry, I was Wednesday brained. I do have some stuff going on tomorrow, but I'm working behind the scenes on some of that. Envy my Lily, you as well. Monica's legit. Love seeing you two chat. What I really liked was when I started bringing stuff up mid-conversation, she was like fact-checking me. And I was like, please do. This is awesome. I love getting like vindicated in real time. This is great. But yeah, good stuff. Some good people with good information out there. Make sure you hit the like button, share, subscribe, follow, all that bullshit that I guess I gotta say. Or don't. You could always just watch me on 7seas.tv. There's no ability to subscribe. You can't chat because I don't know how to fucking code a chat. But yeah, thank you guys so much, and we will see you next time, and peace out.